Hello, everybody. Welcome to the fifth episode of the Clinch. Today on the show, we have myself, we have Keith Robert, and returning back again 2 weeks in a row, David Stewart.
Dave's
All right,
by popular demand.
by popular demand is right. Our viewership went up, so we got to put his pretty mug back on there.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
he's taking the world by storm. He's getting all these. He's signing autographs. There's people sending him chicken parm from all over the country.
That was one autograph, and it was for you in your man cave.
If you guys have any suggestions for the show or anything, feel free to message myself, message Keith, send us an email. wesportstalklive@gmail.com. Send us an email. Dave, happy to have you back. We're going to hop right into the speed bag rounds. Just one quick thought from each of these fights. And while Keith's drinking his milk, I'll kick it over to you first. If you don't mind, Dave, we'll start out with Khabilov winning by decision over Silva.
I thought it was a great fight for Khabilov. I thought a couple of fights ago, I thought that he was in line for a title shot because he beat Masvidal, and then he had a tough fight against Benson Henderson. I always had a feeling that if he actually beat Henderson, I feel like that he would have jumped almost to a title eliminator fight. I mean, that's just my opinion because I thought he was a great fighter on the up and up, and then he lost, 2 in a row, but now he's won 3, including he beat Silva. Other than that, the fight was basically just Khabilov just trying to get him down. I have a feeling, trying to use his wrestling, but he got the victory, and that's 3 in a row now. So now he's slowly working his way back to the lightweight title contender picture, and we'll see what happens.
Khabilov Silva, I was really surprised by the fact that it was the first fight of the card. I kind of agree with Dave. I don't know what Khabilov did to the UFC on a fight pass on the first fight. I was really surprised by it. This guy is, borderline top 15 fighter in the weight class right now. I thought it was a pretty boring fight. I actually thought Silva gave the fight to Khabilov. He was so worried about the takedowns that he wasn't throwing. He kept squaring his stance up, which is a good strategy when you're to defend takedowns. But because of that, I actually thought that helped Khabilov get takedowns because he didn't have to worry about the striking. And I gave Silva the first round, and then Khabilov got 2 takedowns the last 2 rounds and won it. And I kind of think Silva dropped the ball in that one.
Next fight on the card was Jack Hermanson winning by decision over Scott Askham. Anything special with that fight for you, Dave?
Well, the problem with Askham is if he doesn't finish you in the first round, he's going to lose by decision every time. Because if his 5 fights in the UFC, he'll either knock you out in the first round like he did against, I think, Clint Dempsey. Other than that, he's going to lose because he just gasses out so quick and like early to the second round, which I feel like he did here. Other than that, just Hermanson just, was just tagging him on the feet. Other than that, just one of those fights where you just glad that it gets over as soon as possible. But unfortunately for this one, it went the decision. So we had to suffer a full 15 minutes. But I know Keith has another thing he would like to talk about probably for this great fight on the Fight Pass card.
Well, Askham is really tough, but he's not very talented. And Hermanson is really tough. He's a little talented. So to me, it just came down to a C-level fighter beating a D-level fighter. Hermanson had a pretty good jab that he was using, and I was pretty impressed by his work in the clinch. I actually thought that was an area that Askham could excel in because he was a taller fighter, a stronger fighter. But I mean, neither one of these guys is anything to get excited about.
No, they looked like Hermanson had very sloppy takedowns. He would try to take him down, and then Askham would just land basically right on top of him. I don't know if that was just him being gassed or his just not a really great wrestler and just doesn't really know what to do.
But it's European. There's not many good wrestlers.
Yeah, no. Yeah. Speaking of non-exciting, the next fight on the card ended in a draw. Colombo versus Dono. Or Dono.
This one I feel like Dan Ho just was basically looking for that overhand right just to hit that chin and then put Colombo to sleep. And we were all thinking it would happen because you see these two behemoths in the octagon and you're like, oh, there's no way that this is getting past 2 minutes in the first round because one of these big meatheads is going to land a overhand right and crash the other guy to the mat. But unfortunately, that did not happen. And the reason why is because of Colombo doing a illegal knee, which basically kind of lost him the fight, I thought. But pretty soon that once we hit next year, the rules will change for how many spots or how many points of contact the opponent has to make before he's deemed a down opponent. And I feel like that is what cost Colombo here, the illegal knee. And other than that, it was just these two guys just getting gassed out early and just trying for that one miracle knockout punch. But unfortunately for the fans, it did not happen.
Christian Colombo versus Jarius Dono. To me, same thing as what Dave just said. Everyone expected a quick early stoppage. Dono was this guy who was really pumped up 2 fights ago coming to UFC. He was supposed to be a big prospect. And he is, to me, he has absolutely failed miserably. He said, Dan Hardy pointed out that he said when he was walking out that if he lost to Colombo, he shouldn't be in the UFC. Well, in my opinion, he lost. I still scored the fight. I scored at 29-27 with the point deduction. I gave all 3 rounds. Dono kept dropping his head, and he was getting destroyed with these knees. He kept I don't know what defense he was doing, but he'd throw a punch and lean over as a way to defend the takedowns. And Dono just kept, Colombo just kept getting that clinch and kneeing him. And he was the one pressing the fight. I scored it 29-27, but I was really disappointed in Dono. He was supposed to be a big new European prospect at heavyweight, and he has not been impressive.
All right, move on to yet another decision. Lepolis beats Leandro Issa. Good.
You want to start, Keith? Or you want me to go?
I'm going to kick it over to Keith
I'll
first
start.
on the next one. Or this one. That's fine.
Yeah. All right. So we were just talking about Dono as a European prospect that's been disappointing. And Taylor Lepolis, he's a French prospect. And to me, he's the complete opposite. He's been even more impressive than you hear about him. This fight, he's going against a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion, so he obviously had to defend that takedown. What I was so impressed was he did the complete opposite of what Silva does. He was defending the takedown but punishing for it. I think there was one time Issa did get him down. He scrambled right back to his feet, which is just demoralizes the guy who's trying to get a takedown. He works all the things to get a takedown, and what impressed me was that when I was watching Lepolis, he was reminding me of an earlier fighter, and I mean it as a compliment. He reminded me of Eve Edwards. Now, obviously, there's certain similarities. He's left-handed. He's black. He's got short haircut, like Eve's. He looks like him. So there's that. But just his style of punching, he was defending the takedowns, had great hip position, throwing combinations, using the kicks, and what was most impressive was that he was winning the clinch battles. Taylor Lepolis is a guy that I'm putting on my short list for prospects, European prospects to watch out for. I was really impressed by him.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with Keith there. I was looking at some of the stats. Issa tried 14 takedowns and only got 3. So right there, you're talking about a guy who's got amazing defense for the takedown. Other than that, I thought it was just a great fight, and we'll see where Keith, if this guy actually becomes a pretty good prospect, and we'll have to check back in the future. But just another decision on the card. So far, it's getting decision, majority draw and decision. So far, if you're watching this card, you're like, oh, is there going to be a fight that's just going to knock my socks off? And so far, it hasn't come yet on this card.
All right, and you had to wait until the 3rd round of the next fight to finally get that knockout. Ashley Evans-Smith knocking out Veronica Macedo. I
thought that I don't think I've ever seen more Macedo just trying to get that single leg, roll into a knee bar so many times in one fight. I understand why she was doing it because Smith was basically just, jabbing her and picking her apart. And then I like when she finally got her down, she had wrist control and she was just laying those elbows in. So she was going in for the kill, definitely. And I was happy that we actually got a decision. So we'll see where actually Evan Smith goes from here. But I thought she looked pretty good on the feet. She was able to stop every single, roll into a knee bar that Veronica was trying to do. And she basically stuffed it every time. And then she got the finish, which is, the first finish on the card. And that's a women's fight and the only women's fight. So I was happy to see it. And I thought it was overall a pretty good fight to watch.
Keith?
Ashley Evan Smith is she's really changed my opinion of her. Her last fight, she fought Mario Renault, and I thought she lost. I thought Renault won the decision. Ashley Evan Smith got the decision. The thing about her, she looked completely different in this fight. She used her wrestling, and that's her bread and butter, and that's what you've been hearing about is her wrestling background, and you haven't really seen it in the octagon yet. So she finally used it, and she looked like a completely different fighter. She looked great. She looks to me like a contender. Now, she's very big for the weight class, which to me is a strength for her wrestling. She gets that clinch. She's overpowering people, gets a takedown. I was really impressed by her ground and pound. Exactly what Dave said about she blocked off an arm where she couldn't block strikes from a certain side. I was really impressed. So it went to me that in one fight, to me, Ashley Evan Smith went from overrated to underrated. Where before I was just like, no, she's not a contender. She shouldn't be fighting these fights. And now I'm like, whoa, maybe I was wrong. And Macedo, how do you say Mikado? I don't know how you say her name. She's only 20 years old, and she's very small for the weight class. So she needs to go down to 115. But she's well rounded. She's got good jiu-jitsu, and she's one of the greatest knockouts in MMA history. If you see some of her, Dan Hardy was talking about it. She has one of the best high kicks you ever see. So at only 20 years old, I think she's only been training MMA for like a little over a year. So let's not give up on her yet either.
No.
All right, we move on from that fight to a pretty dominant fight. Peter Sabata winning by decision, an easy decision over Nicholas Dalby. How'd you guys feel about that fight? Anything you really want to highlight from that, other than Dalby got his ass kicked?
Well, I just want to pick. You want to start, Keith?
Sure, I'll start. Peter Sabata, he was a pretty hyped up prospect years ago, and he completely failed in the UFC. He came back a couple years later, and the thing about Sabata is the same as Ashley Evan Smith. I thought he looked awful, and then in this fight, he looked fantastic. He used he established this jab that I think he had, and then he worked the body. He used long leg kicks, push kicks. He landed this beautiful upcut that dropped Nicholas Dalby, and he threw in some takedowns. His top pressure was great. I mean, Nicholas Dalby is what he is. He's a pressure fighter. He's a poor man's Court McGee type. He wins by just pressuring the guy with a high pace. He's not very talented. I'm not saying Sabata's a contender or anything, but this is the best I've ever seen him.
Yeah, I agree with Keith. That was he actually took my point where Sabata was in the UFC a couple of years ago and he lost 3 in a row, and now he went to the independent circuit. Now he's back and he's won 3 out of his last 4. And this is the fight that made me mad because Sabata was the underdog when I was betting on DraftKings, and I was like, oh, Dalby always has an exciting fight, so I'm going to go with Dalby, and he just got annihilated by Sabata. And so ever since his first UFC stint where he lost 3 in a row, he even lost to Amir Sadala. Now he's come back and he's looked like a totally different fighter. So I mean, like Keith was saying, he's probably not going to be a contender, but his fights are somewhat interesting to watch. He put on a clinic against Dalby and busted him up pretty good.
All right, then we move on to the last fight on the prelims. We have Ayari versus Jim Wallhead. Ayari wins the decision. Other one looks like they scored pretty one-sided.
I actually thought Wallhead did enough to actually get the victory. I mean, this is the guy, Wallhead, his first UFC fight, and he's been around a pretty long time. I mean, he even holds a victory over Frank Trigg a couple of years ago. I thought he did enough to get the decision. He looked like he was more aggressive. He was trying to land the jab, coming in and coming out. So, I mean, I would have scored it for Wallhead, but then again, you can never leave it in the hands of the judges because it's, things happen and everyone gets mad. But I scored it for Wallhead, but I'm curious to see how Keith actually scored this fight.
Yeah, Judo Jim Wallhead. He's been around forever. He was, as Dan Hardy pointed out, he's a trained partner of Danny Hardy for years. He trained with Ross Pearson. He's one of these guys always been in the corner of all the top English fighters, but hasn't been in the UFC. I thought we were going to have a debate here, but we're not. I scored the last 2 rounds for Wallhead. I scored it 29-28 for Wallhead. I checked MMA decisions. 8 out of the 12 guys who submitted a score to MMA decisions scored it for Wallhead. Kind of sucks for a guy that I thought deserved to get a win to get a loss in his UFC debut, but the reason why Wallhead took him this long to get in the UFC, he's not a UFC caliber fighter. So.
All right, after that, we move on to the main card. Only 4 fights on this one. And the first one did not really draw you in, did not really get you very interesting. Nick Hein won by decision over Bang, whatever you want to say.
I mean, I just have one thing to say. I mean, I'm glad that the German boy did good, but other than that, he did bad in that octagon. He got the win for his home country, so I'm happy for that because it's always tough to fight in your backyard because, you know, you always want to put on your best performance, and I don't think that Nick Hein did that. I thought he won the first 2, and I thought Bang was tagging him definitely in the 3rd round. I felt like Bang knew he was down the 2 rounds, so he was trying to be the aggressor, definitely. But they still scored a unanimous decision. But German boy did good in his home country and got the win. But this fight was just, it was very tough to watch, in my opinion.
Nick Hein, he really aggravates me because this guy, he's 5-1 in the UFC. He's a really big European prospect, and he has all the tools. He's a great athlete. He's got strong combinations when he throws them. He's very tight, good in the pocket, kind of like a Robbie Lawler type. He world-class judo. He was a European champion, and his judo is top-notch. And the UFC they're trying to reach this German market. They're trying to, he's a good-looking guy. He's built good, so they're trying to market this guy, and they're giving him fights to display him, and he's too tentative. He's too cautious. This was supposed to be a marquee in his hometown. They wanted this to be the McGregor knocking out
Aldo.
The Brazilian there, the guy. No, the Brazilian he beat, they won the Ultimate Fighter there. When McGregor was in Ireland, he fought.
Who was that? Seaver? Dennis Seaver?
No, he's not Brazilian. The Brazilian, the guy who won the Ultimate Fighter. What?
No, I'll look it up quick.
Yeah. Anyways, that guy. So, anyways, this is supposed to be that the crowd was supposed to be going crazy, and instead, Nick Hein is not aggressive, and he lets this fight go to decision. He could have easily stopped this fight. He's a better wrestler, better striker, more powerful, better athlete. I mean, Bang, he's a low-level UFC talent. He's good enough to be in the UFC, but he's a low-level talent. Well, Hein is guy's got a lot of talent. Could be a top 15 guy, but he is really he's just aggravating.
Are you thinking of Diego Brandao? Is that who you're going with?
Oh, Diego Brandao. Yeah, Diego Brandao. He fought McGregor in Ireland.
Yep.
On Fight Pass, and that McGregor's big Irish. That was what they wanted. They wanted the crowd to be going crazy for Nick Hein, and it just didn't happen. It was awful.
Yeah, I mean,
to me, this was the most disappointing fight on the whole card.
Oh yeah, hands down.
I agree. I scored it the same way that you did, Dave. I thought Bang actually did steal that 3rd round after the first round. The only offense was the takedown. Let's be honest.
In the 3rd round, Hein did catch Bang with a shot that stumbled his legs a little bit. Other than that, the 3rd round, I thought Bang was definitely controlling it the whole time.
I agree. There was the one shot, and then that was really it. You saw Hein, backpedaling a lot, just fighting not to lose. But when they put you in this situation, I feel like you need to do more.
Well, yeah. I mean, Hein has only unanimous decisions on his record for the UFC. So, I mean, the guy is definitely not a finisher in the UFC. And like Keith was saying, he's just timid, and we'll see what happens. but he definitely blew his big chance to be a big star in his home country. That's for sure.
After that fight, we move on to Ryan Bader winning by knockout over Ilir Latifi. It was a hell of a knee. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen the lights go out so quick on somebody. That was oof.
Well, I have to say, I'm glad that Bader did rebound, because at one time, if Bader did beat Rumble Johnson in his last fight, I felt like that was for the belt, to fight for the belt. And usually when you suffer a brutal knockout like Bader did against Rumble Johnson, like everybody who faces Rumble Johnson gets knocked out. So I was glad he actually did rebound. His defense from the takedown for Latifi was pretty good in the first round. I think Latifi tried to do 4 takedowns and he stuffed every one. But at the weigh-ins, Latifi looked like a brick house. He was just completely jacked up. So I don't know if he was even on something, but he looked like a totally different fighter than when me and Keith saw him in Boston. And in Boston, when he beat Sean O'Connell, he looked great too. He knocked him out basically in the first round. But Latifi did drop Bader with a punch very late in the round, but I think it was with like 10 or 15 seconds left, but it was just a flat, like a glancing blow, but it didn't knock him to his feet, but Bader was right back up. So I thought Latifi won the first round on that note alone, trying to be aggressive with the takedowns. But then in the second round, it all went to hell with that one knee, because I felt like when Latifi had that much muscle, I felt like he was already gassed after the first round. So I felt like it was a desperation takedown. It's like, I got to get this guy down just to hold him down. And I think Bader knew that, and he landed that perfectly precise knee. And I mean, he was up when he immediately made contact. Like when he was falling to the ground, he was definitely out. So I'm happy that Bader got a win, because I always liked Ryan Bader. I always thought he was a great fighter. He always fought with his heart. And Latifi is a guy that we may not even know if he belonged in the UFC, because he was a training partner for Gustafsson. And then when Gustafsson went down, he basically stepped in to fight Gegard Mousasi. And he put on a hell of a show for the fans. And I think Dana White was like, hey, this guy stepped in on short notice. He basically fought a top 7 guy. And he kind of held his own. So, I mean, I don't know if Ilir Latifi eventually would have came to the UFC, but he's done good things while he's been here. But this loss is definitely gonna derail him for sure.
This fight, I'll get to the knockout. I'll get to that right away. Right, I mean, this is one of the greatest knockouts you'll see. This will be obviously be in Ryan Bader's highlight film for years. This will be one of these when the UFC does a promotion for themselves, when they're showing. They always have this awesome highlight show. You'll see this knockout in there. It's kind of like remind me of like Gonzaga knocking out Krokop. Like it's one of those ones that you're gonna see. It was so devastating the way Latifi's body went flying. It weighs like almost like he got like electrocuted. Like he jerked back. You're gonna see that. It was really a great knockout. I mean, you could almost put it in knockout of the year category. So what I was surprised was how many people was taking Latifi to beat Bader. And I get it. Latifi's a sexy pick, the young guy, the up and cover. But I saw this fight. I'm like, what a matchup nightmare Bader is for Latifi. Now let's take it out. Wrestling. The strength of Latifi is his wrestling. Well, he's a great wrestler. Bader's a great wrestler. Wash. Okay. Next strength for Latifi is how strong he is. He's crazy strong. Like me and Dave said, we saw him in Boston. He knocked out who did he knock out?
Sean O'Connell.
Sean O'Connell. Yes. The author, the guy who writes fantasy novels part time. Anyways, he knocked out O'Connell. And he came over. We actually were where he was exiting. He was like hugging us and stuff. And the guy is huge. The guy, he looks like the Incredible Hulk. But Ryan Bader is the same way. Ryan Bader is this guy who's crazy strong for his weight. Rashad Evans said that. So now you got to watch that, and then that leaves really pretty much just a stand up. Well, Latifi's all he is a winging right hand, like a Dan Henderson. We just wings the right hand. And that slows him down. He's gassed out in the past. Well, Ryan Bader, for a wrestler, he's actually a lot better striker than he gets credited for. He has extremely good leg kicks. He really he showed that against Rashad Evans. He's got a nice jab, and he also has a right hand that's just like Latifi's. So no, obviously I gave Latifi the chance of landing that right hand, but to me that was the only way he was going to win is landing that right hand. Bader had a lot more tools in the shed, so Bader really needed an impressive. Bader didn't need just to win; he needed an impressive win like this because of how bad he looked against Rumble Johnson. Like he was scared of Rumble Johnson. So will Ryan Bader be a champion? I don't think so, but I think he's just clearly puts him that he's still top 5, and he's still gonna get some marquee fights.
All right, after Bader Latifi, we moved on to Alexander Gustafsson versus Jan Blachowicz. Pretty easy decision for Gustafsson. I think he looked good overall. I mean, I'm not sure if you guys were expecting to see more from him or if that was enough. I thought he won in a pretty dominant fashion.
Well, I thought the UFC purposely gave Gustafsson a fight that he could definitely win to try to build him back up as the star from overseas. But in that first round, Jan was tagging him on the feet the whole time. I mean, I felt like Gustafsson didn't know how much power he had, Jan. But once he figured out that he's got power and he's tagging me, I thought Jan won the first round pretty decisively. But then once he started gassing out, Gustafsson was just like, I can't take this guy's power. I got to just take him down and just, ground to pound him and just kind of wear him out, which is basically what I thought Gustafsson did. He tried to play it safe because he knew I could beat this guy. The UFC basically fed me a guy to get that win streak back on so I can get back in the title picture because I sell big overseas. You know what I mean? I'm a good fighter to have on a card that's from another country. So, but I thought that Jan looked incredible on his feet, and I don't think he has anything to be ashamed of that he lost. I thought he was handing it to the two-time title defender, basically the guy that fought for the belt twice, and he was picking him apart on his feet. That's
the part that not to cut you off, Keith. Just the adjustment that Gustafsson made in fight. I thought that was very, very telling of him. He was able to adjust on the fly. He completely changed up his game plan from the first round, which obviously wasn't working. And after that, it was a totally different fight, and he looked great.
Yeah, Gustafsson, he lost 3 out of the last 4. He lost to the top 3 guys in the division, Jones, Cormier, and Johnson. So he really needed to win. I agree with Dave. I thought he was losing the first round. I thought he was very flat-footed in the first round. He was standing up really high. He was getting nailed, especially to the body with the push kicks and the straight punches. I thought he was losing, but he made the adjustment, like Justin says, I forgot which fight it was. It was a fight last week where a guy, who was it? It was the Perry fight. Mike Perry versus the Korean guy. The Korean, I can't think of his name. The Korean guy.
Kim.
Who?
It's like Kim something.
Yeah. Go figure. Korean name Kim. So whatever. The Korean guy was a veteran. He didn't make the adjustments, and he lost. It was a big upset. And before that, Tim Means made the adjustments in a fight that he was losing, and ended up winning. And this is actually what I thought Gustafsson did. He showed the veteran savvy of him, seeing, listen, I clearly have the takedowns. I clearly have an advantage in wrestling, and he just exploited it. And I don't think it was his best fight. I don't think it was his best performance, but a win's a win. And there's been a lot of times guys haven't looked their best, and they kept going on and continued streaks. And I think of when I saw Johnny Hendricks having a fight where he didn't look his best, and then he ended up winning the title. I don't think Gustafsson's a title guy. He's too conservative to me. His fight against Daniel Cormier, it was a close fight, and then he started running, and Cormier kept pressing forward, and that's why I believe Cormier got the decision. They do with him because I don't think he deserves a title fight. I don't think he I could see them doing a Jones rematch, which to me makes a lot of sense. Another guy I think is Ryan Bader. They both fight in the same card, so they both should be ready about the same time. They haven't fought each other. They're both near the top. And then another guy I was thinking about, Glover Teixeira, Gustafsson. So I think the UFC is in a tough position with Gustafsson. Other than Jones, there isn't really a marquee fight for him. And then obviously with the Jones situation, you don't know what to do. I know I'm not really analyzing the fight because there really wasn't anything to analyze. He was a better wrestler. That's about it.
Did the UFC ever strip Jones of the interim title, or is he still the interim title champ, Jones?
I mean, he won the interim championship, and they never said anything about stripping him for it. So I'm assuming he's still the interim champion. Because I mean, to me, John Jones is the champion. He never lost the belt. He beat the champion right now. Obviously within reason you have to defend it. He's only fought one time in the last year and a half. But
because I was just curious if John, because if he did, because he's not going to want to fight Gustafsson because he's got nothing to prove because he already beat him. So Jones' mindset, he's like, I'm the champ. I want to fight whoever wins either DC, Rumble. I want to fight them because I'm still the champ. No one's ever beat me. So I feel like the UFC probably wouldn't do – I feel like even if they brought it up to him and said, we'll pay you more if you fight Gustafsson than if you fight DC, I feel like Jones would say, no, I want that title. I don't care. I already beat this guy. I got nothing more to prove. Because the title, that's what everyone's fighting for is the title.
Yeah, I don't know if John Jones is really in the position to make demands.
No, he's the farthest thing from that.
I mean,
Sorry for interrupting.
I understand what you're saying. He's already beaten him, and he's already beaten the champion.
He's got nothing to prove.
Well, he hasn't beaten Rumble, and he didn't look too good in his last fight. So I think to me, the biggest thing about Jones is got to prove that he's going to stay clean. If he can stay clean for a long extended time and no controversy, nothing off out of the octagon, nothing. No steroids, no drugs, no running with the police,
hit and runs.
Nothing, no hit and runs.
Yeah.
All right, then we go on to the main event of the card, Josh Barnett versus Andrei Arlovski. Should have happened probably 10 years ago, but finally happens. In the first 20 seconds of the fight, we see Arlovski get rocked twice and Barnett get rocked once. And after the first 20 seconds, you're just kind of wondering, okay, when does it end? And the answer to that was round 3. Barnett submits Arlovski, rear naked choke. You guys have any breakdown on this, or just two powerhouses throwing clubs? Keith?
Yeah, all right. I'll go first. Well, this fight, I mean, it is what it is. To me, it was like last week. I didn't want to take a winner. It's just, I can't believe how many people are talking about Josh Barnett making a title run and Josh Barnett looked good. And did you guys watch the same fight? I've been reading. I mean, he's talking about title fights. To me, he looked awful. Yeah, he won. He looked awful. He was hurt on the feet by Andrei Arlovski multiple times. He kept doing this where Arlovski throws a flurry. He was pulling away, and instead of slipping or answering back, he just kind of pulled away, let Arlovski throw the flurry, and then when he'd stop, he'd kind of then start firing back. I thought his strikes looked slow, even though he rocked Arlovski twice. Neither shot was that good. They were kind of grazing shots. Andrei Arlovski is not a UFC top talent. He hasn't been. He knocked him out. I don't know how many 7-8 years ago. He's this title run of Arlovski to me was so deceiving. I was never impressed with him. I thought he lost to Brennan Schaub, Frank Mir.
He looked good against Brown.
He got rocked by Travis Brown. He beat Antonio Silva, but Antonio Silva is basically the same boat as he is in now. He's not the same fighter. I know a couple weeks ago when Jay Martin was on the show, we were talking about fighters taking damages, and when they need to know to hang it up. I think Arlovsky is like Exhibit A of a guy that needs to hang it up. His chin has been gone for years, and technically he didn't get knocked down in this fight. But if you look at the damage he took in the second round when he was mounted, and then you add up all the times he's been knocked out. He's been knocked out 9 times in his career, and that's not counting the times he hasn't been knocked out. He's been knocked out. I mean, Tim Sylvia knocked him out, Fedor, Brett Rogers, Sergey Haritonov. I don't know if guys off the top of my head, Miocic, Overeem. I mean, there's probably a couple more in there. You're getting hit by heavyweights who hit hard, and you're going at lights out. He's just, I don't get. I looked it up. He's made millions of dollars. He doesn't have to fight anymore. He's a guy that I'm really worried about his well-being. So I really think he should hang it. I saw Joe Rogan talk to Brendan Schaub, who does a radio show with, and told him it's time to hang it up. And I'm saying the same thing to Alex. It's time to hang it up, man. And he's taken a lot worse damage than Brendan Schaub has. And that's all I can take out of this fight is I don't think either guy looked good. And why would you take the damage? I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with Keith. Neither guy looked overall exceptional. I read that Josh Barnett was 18 pounds more than Arlovsky. So I felt like when he was doing the clinch, I felt like that was Barnett's way, just to keep wearing him down, because when you're holding that extra weight on you, it's just going to derail what you're doing. So I felt like Barnett just kept trying to get in the clinch and just basically just lean on him the whole time, because the extra 18 pounds, that'll add up over a couple of minutes during the fight. And then I know everyone's excited about that first 30 seconds, but that was it. And Arlovsky had a couple nice combos towards the end of round 1. What I was curious about is when this could have gone either way. If it depends on the situation and depends on the referee. Now, bear with me for a moment. When Arlovsky poked Barnett in the eye and he visibly turned around, some referees would feel that is you're forfeiting your fight. Because once you turn around from an opponent, you're basically giving yourself up. Now, I know the referee didn't see the eye poke, but how does he know it's not a broken orbital or something that happened? So I felt like Barnett got very lucky that the referee didn't stop it, because when I was watching the Benson Henderson Pitbull fight, similar situation where he just kind of, I know Barnett didn't wave it off, but still he turned his back. And then once you turn your back, that's a symbol, a symbol of I'm forfeiting, I'm done, either I'm hurt or I can't take it anymore. So in my opinion, I feel like Barnett definitely got lucky in that one. I want to know what your opinion is on that, Keith.
Well, I know one thing Pitbull did was he kind of put his hand up and waved that he was done.
Yeah.
So one of those ones where a guy does get turned, the referee, I'm assuming, probably thought he got turned by a punch and to stop it, as in eye poke. So I think he was going to let him get some damage. And once Barnett started getting hit by Arlovsky, he realized that the referee wasn't stopping it. He kind of turned back in and kept fighting. So obviously that's the reason why he didn't stop it. I think it would have been a shame if that's why it got stopped. I don't know. I think what I would have liked in this fight was I would like Arlovsky to announce that he retires. And I would like to have Barnett to announce that he retired. He was going out on top with a win. Because I'm reading these people. I can't believe people are saying that they're talking about him making a title run. I'm like, I'm hearing them saying he should fight Junior Dos Santos or fight,
I mean, he lost to Ben Rothwell, for Christ's sake. Ben Rothwell.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm saying, do you remember what he looked like last? He got knocked out by Travis Brown. Like, what is this? Where's this coming from? You think, and you talk about being 18 pounds. He weighed in heavier than he has the last 2 fights. Like, his motivation's not there. He's not. I don't know. I don't get. People seeing what I'm seeing.
I feel like it's just that thing where the older generation loves seeing the guys that they grew up watching, and they always hope that they can have that Rocky moment where they come back after so many years and get the title, but it's not. It's unfeasible. I mean, we loved him back in the day, but now it's just like, you win one, you lose one. You win one, you lose one. It's like you have to stop taking the punishment and just know when it's time to go. You won. That may be your last win ever. You may lose your next 3 in a row. And then you should have said, hey, I should have retired because look at all the damage I just took. I'm taking years off my life now for no reason. That would have been a great way to go out. I mean, you didn't win by decision or split decision. You actually beat a great guy back in his prime. So I would have said I agreed with Keith. I thought they both should have just, both left their gloves in the ring and then walked into the sunset.
And how bad did Arlovsky look? He quit. He didn't. The submission wasn't even in. He tapped before he was in. He just quit.
Yeah,
he was gassed. He's done. Yeah.
It reminded me of Gary Goodridge when he tapped out from exhaustion.
Or when Bob Sapp taps out. So once he gets on the ground and takes one punch, he's done. Taps immediately.
All right. Finished up with that card. We had a good suggestion. Keith said it was from you, Dave. Which Bellator guys would we like to see in the UFC?
Well, I feel like the main fight that everyone, in my opinion, that they want to see is I don't know if Keith would agree with me, but you have to see Chandler Alvarez 3. They both got the strap now. I feel like that's the fight that the fans would love to see because I feel like in Chandler's mind, it's this guy's ducking me. He actually had to leave the organization so he wouldn't fight me again, even though the fights have been close in the past. But that's one fight I would definitely love to see happen is Alvarez Chandler 3. And another good fight I would like to see would be a couple of great wrestlers. I would think King Mo versus Ryan Bader. I think that would be a pretty good, interesting fight to watch. And then my third one, which I would – what's up, Keith?
Who would you take to win these fights?
For which one?
Both of them.
Alvarez versus Chandler? I think Chandler would win again. I would go with Chandler for that one. I'm curious to see what you would say. And then for the Bader-King Mo fight – that one's really tough to score because they both have power in the hands and they both love to swing and they're both amazing on the ground. I mean, they're both great wrestlers. With what I've seen Ryan Bader just do, I would probably have to give the edge to Bader in that fight. But I'm curious to see which two of the two fights I announced, which one would you think who would win and your thoughts on them?
The two you've said, I would take Chandler again. I'm going to get into that in a second, and I think Ryan Bader he's a much better striker than King Mo is. So I would take Bader over Mo.
And then my third fight, I kind of watch Bellator when I can. Another fight I thought would be interesting. Now these are two. The one guy from Bellator, I always enjoyed watching him fight, but I'm not sure if Keith knows. But I would do David Rickles versus Masvidal.
Oh,
What, the beard versus the beard?
Oh my god!
What happened? You don't like David Rickles, the caveman?
Oh, if David Rickles didn't have all his little shows coming down, people don't even know he's not that good of a fighter. I know
he's not, but I would like to see him just bang with Masvidal just so they could. I don't know. I mean, I watched Bellator. Other than that, I mean, the two first ones were good. That third one was one I would just like to see them just swing.
David Rickles.
Come on, the caveman. He's. I mean, he just lost to Melvin Gillard, but then Gillard tested positive, so he's still doing pretty good.
Once he finishes his entrance, I'm pretty much done with him. Like, okay, he made his entrance. No, I don't really want to watch him fight now.
So you got to jump on the Rickles fan wagon now because he's about to take off. He's going to be the next Ed Herman of MMA.
Is that all your fights?
Yeah. How many did you do? I just did 3 just to. We could also talk about the people from Bellator that just recently signed. Like, you have 37?
I got 37. I want you guys to break it down every single one of them.
Okay. Start from the bottom.
All right. No, I kind of cheated. I did a little different. I didn't just leave it to Bellator. I did. Here's my top 5 fighters I would like to see in the UFC. That are not currently in the UFC. So I'll do a little countdown. Number 5, and this is the guy I'm probably getting the most hate on, is as I like to see Ben Askren in the UFC. He is the most boring fighter in the history of MMA.
Yep.
But he's an ultra talent.
Dana White says he's stupid, basically. He keeps calling this guy because he tried to sign him a couple years ago, and he said this is one of the most stupidest guys they ever had to negotiate with was Ben Askren.
Yeah. This is a guy that he's been released as when he was the champion. He was a Bellator champion. They let him go. He's a 3-time NCAA champion. The guy I would like to see him fight in the UFC would be Damian Maia. I would love to see the stylistic matchup of because Ben Askren, he immediately goes for takedown. He gets a takedown. No one can stop his takedowns. I mean, the guy wrestling the Olympics. He's, like I said, he's 3-time national champion wrestler. He was a Hodge Trophy winner, which is the equivalent of the Heisman Trophy. Yes, the Heisman Trophy of wrestling. To see him matched up with a guy that he wouldn't have an advantage on the ground, I would love to see that. And you got the 3-time national champion versus the Abu Dhabi champion, the greatest grappler in the history of MMA. I would take Maya. I think Maya would submit him. But who would you take?
Well, I would take a nap probably for the first 15 minutes, and then I feel like that would be Dana White's worst nightmare if that fight actually did happen. I would probably agree because Maya's just on a tear. I mean, Askren only fights once a year now, it seems like. So I would have to take.
If they stood up, I think Maya would outstrike him.
I feel like that fight would be like the card we just had to watch with Arlovsky and Barnett. Just a lot of snoozes.
Well, Ben Askren is extremely boring. He's extreme talent too, so that's why I'd want to see him fight in the UFC. All right, and he's great on the mic. For a guy who's boring, he can talk. He can trash talk with the rest of them. My number 4 guy is Justin Gaethje. He's ranked. I think he might be in our top 10 in Sports Talk rankings, at least top 15. He's got crazy power, great wrestling, great athlete. He's undefeated. He brings pressure. The guy I would like to see him fight is he's a 155 pounder, is Nate Diaz. I think he's never faced anybody that can someone pressuring them, and he's never handled anybody that can handle his power, and which obviously Nate can. Who would you take in that?
Well, I'm just looking to see who he's fought in the past. He's fought Gallard, and he won by split, and he's also beat Dan Lozon, who is an unsung hero in the MMA community.
Especially up here in New England.
Yeah. It's a tough one. I've seen a couple of his fights actually from he fights for the World Series of Fighting, which is what the hell is missing the guy's name who actually runs it. I know I saw him fight one time in Strikeforce and he lost very bad. I forgot who actually runs it.
It's a kickboxer there. The old what's his name?
Ray Sefo, that's it. Yeah. I would probably have to go with Diaz. I feel like you can't doubt Diaz is striking and his trash talk and everything that he brings to the octagon. I mean, I definitely think it would be an interesting fight, but because they're both pretty close in age. I think Diaz is like 31 and this Justin's 27. So I feel like it'll be a interesting fight to watch. But I would have to take Diaz just because of what Diaz has done.
All right, so my number 3. And I can't believe this is a Bellator. This is my first Bellator fighter. I can't believe you didn't pick him.
If it's Tito, I'm going to lose it. If you're bringing Tito back, come on. Their retirement tour.
Tito versus Chocolate L3.
Yep.
No, Tito versus Guy Mezger 3. We got to finish the trilogy. To me, probably one of the biggest names and biggest talents in Bellator is Michael MVP Page. I can't believe you didn't pick him.
Well, I was gonna pick him, but I feel like he's not there. He's not there yet. I know they're trying to make him there. I feel like he's on that roller coaster going up, and he's right about to hit his peak. I feel like, but they got to keep giving him like schlubs. I know Santos, has been around a while. I know he's fought.
He just broke his skull.
I know. Santos fought Diaz a couple of years ago, but I feel like they're babying him very particularly to make him the next biggest star in Bellator as a MVP.
Yeah, I think we lost Justin. He's like, I'm out of here. I don't want to listen.
Oh no, because once you talk about cracking a guy's skull and then trying to catch him like a Pokemon, I feel like you're losing it. But I was thinking about him.
Michael Page. I'd like to see him against Nick Diaz. I would put him against Nick Diaz. I think Page versus Diaz, 2 great trash talkers. Page got fast hands, fast feet. To me, he's like the black version of Conor McGregor. He's very similar. He has that karate style. So then it gets to my top 2 is I would go with Michael Chandler versus Eddie Alvarez 3. I thought the last fight, Chandler won the first fight. I thought he won the second fight. I scored it for him. I checked on MMA decisions. 10 out of 13 people scored it for Chandler. I remember one of the greatest fights in MMA history is Dan Henderson versus Shogun. And that night was the same time Michael Chandler versus Eddie Alvarez won. And so many people talk about, anytime someone says the greatest fight ever is Dan Henderson versus Shogun won, I always say that's not even the best fight of the night. I think Eddie Alvarez won might be my favorite fight ever. And my number one fighter I want to see in the UFC, and this is just for nostalgia, is I want Fedor to come to the UFC. I want him to fight either Josh Barnett or Anderson Silva or whoever. I think he loses to anybody, but just I want to see Fedor fight once in the UFC.
Well, Fedor keeps talking about, or Tito keeps running his mouth that says if Fedor gets down to 205, I'll fight him in Bellator. But there's no way. I don't think Fedor can get down that weight now in his age. I feel like that'd be pretty tough. But I mean,
I think we definitely lost Justin. He's gone. It's
okay. You didn't want to hear about Bellator. He's offended. We actually brought up Bellator and World Series of Fighting on the Clinch. We on the Clinch, you only talk about MMA, which means UFC. You don't talk about all the other smaller. You don't talk about King of the Cage when Raya Faber was ruling it. You don't bring that up here.
All right. So real quick before because I guess I'll host it from now. I don't know what happened to Justin. He wanted to get in on his picks. And he was getting mad that we didn't let him get his picks in.
It's okay.
Right. This weekend, main event. Sorry, I'm all messed up. I can't host. I need Justin to control this. The main event Saturday night is Stipe Miocic defending his belt. Again, hey, there he is.
There he is. Hey,
I got kicked out of my own show.
No, tell us the real reason. You were offended. We were talking about Bellator.
I thought you were like, we're not talking Bellator. I'm out of here.
No, I got kicked from my own show. That was really weird. What did you get through your whole five? You were at number 3, and then
yeah. I'll tell you real quick. No breakdown. Number 5 was I put Ben Askren versus Damian Maia. Number 4 was Justin Gaethje versus Nick Diaz. Number 3 was Michael Page versus Nick Diaz. Number 2 was Michael Chandler, Eddie Alvarez 3. And my number 1 was Fedor coming to the UFC fighting anybody. Anybody, I don't care. I just want him in the UFC. Just at least one fight.
All right. Now, one interesting one that neither of you said, I'm a little bit surprised. Andrei Koroshev, after he completely dominated Benson Henderson, I think he's got a spot in UFC to fight somebody.
Yes. I totally dropped the ball on that one.
Who do you think? Who do you guys think would be a good fight for him at welterweight? I think he matches up well against a lot of UFC guys.
Donald Cerrone and Robbie Lawler is two of the first ones that came to my mind.
So Cerrone was the first one I thought of.
Yeah, that's a good call. I don't know how we forgot him. I mean, he's probably one of the best talents in outside the UFC.
I think he's sitting at 19-1 in his career.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely brutal what he did to Benson Henderson.
But the only guy he lost to was Ben Askren.
There you go. It all comes full circle. All comes full circle.
Let me ask you a question, Keith, real quick. If who do you think would win in a jiu-jitsu match between Paul Harris and Damian Maia?
Damian Maia.
What if Damian Maia was blindfolded?
Damian Maia. Legitimately. No, seriously, legitimately blindfolded, I think you win. Because even in wrestling, especially like Greco-Roman wrestling, like a guy who's a Greco-Roman wrestling could close his eyes and wrestle because you have to touch. You have to be touching so you can feel movement. I think the same way with jiu-jitsu. Obviously, MMA, that's a different story, but yeah, I think Damian Maia would win. I mean, Paul Harris, he's all leg locks, and I don't expect him to get on Damian Maia. I think he would go for a leg lock, leave his neck open, and Damian Maia would stink it on. And Paul Harris doesn't have the BJJ accolades that Damian Maia has.
No, Paul Harris just has that one move where I'm going to cripple you for about a year, put you on the shelf, basically.
I mean,
I'm surprised. I'm surprised that
I can see him
Paul-Harris lost to Alan Belcher, for Christ's sake. That he got destroyed by Alan Belcher, Paul-Harris.
Oh yeah.
Which is surprising because ever since then he's been on a destructive tear, basically just ruining guys' legs for just for the hell of it, really.
Belcher of greasing up his ankles.
Huh. Sorry to go off topic, but you were going to say about coming up UFC this Saturday, 203, the biggest card to hit this side of Rhode Island. I mean, it's stacked. I mean, you got a lot of every fight is actually pretty good, I would think.
I mean,
there's one sleeper on the card, which is, obviously you got the CM Punk, who's the biggest favorite to win a fight this side of Fedor versus anybody.
But you got a matchup of two guys who are undefeated in their UFC career. I mean, he's also winless, but he is undefeated.
That is not true. Never lost. never been to a decision.
Well, yeah. Always finishes.
I wonder when they introduce him, are they going to announce like former Intercontinental Champion, former Tag Team Champion with Shawn Michaels?
They should. That would be. You know what they should do? This would probably be the best thing for him. Remember in I don't know if you remember in like UFC, the early WrestleManias, they would actually come out in the small ring to the ring. That's what they should do for CM Punk. Just have a motorized ring and just have him come down.
Funny.
That would be the best thing ever.
Yeah, I remember Andre the Giant and Bobby Heenan like leaving while Hulk Hogan was flexing.
That's what they should do for CM Punk's entrance. That would be the best thing going.
Where was he? Like, I didn't watch wrestling when he was around. Where was he? Like, how big of a star was he? Was he a
CM Punk? He was up top, man.
Yeah, he was definitely for this era. He was one of the main guys. He was right up there, maybe two with John Cena and Randy Orton. But he was a top guy. He was a big draw for the company for a couple of years.
I'm just surprised how small he is. Like, he's not that big of a guy.
No. But that's why the WWE didn't like him, because they always liked the big guys. They couldn't sell him because he was so tiny. Like, everybody could destroy him theoretically in real life, but in the wrestling ring, he was beating everybody. So I'm really surprised. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen in this fight, but it's one of the ones you just have to watch. You have to see what's going to happen. And I feel like a lot of wrestling fans are going to either go to Wild Wings or go to another establishment that has these fights just to see this one guy fight, because their wrestling fans are diehard to see this guy fight. They even see when Bobby Lashley fights, because he's another guy is a performer wrestler. So I'm excited to see this fight. I know Keith probably thinks this is going to be the biggest snooze on the card is CM Punk versus Mickey Gall.
Guys, give me a sec.
Yep.
And it might be. It might be. Dave, this was more a question for you anyway, so it doesn't really matter that Keith just walked away on us. But do you think he walks out to Cult of Personality as his music? Somebody asked him about it on Facebook Live yesterday, and he refused to answer what he was walking out to.
I feel like he has to, right? Because UFC has pretty much, I think, the licenses to pretty major songs, I feel like. So I feel like if WWE was allowed to get that, the only thing I could think about is if WWE has trademarked or has the exclusive rights to that song for entertainment purposes. I feel like that's the only reason why it won't be used. But to be honest, I would love to see that him walk out to that song.
I think he will. I mean, if he's still going by CM Punk instead of his real name, which I'm amazed that's continuing.
Well, I feel like they'll say his first. I feel like they'll do like Phil CM Punk Brooks. I feel like they'll still have it in there. But then again, I think he owns the name. Like he
does own the name.
Yeah. So I mean, he could just go by CM Punk.
Yeah. What does CM stand for?
It's you never know. It's always something like he never actually said what it was for. Like sometimes he says it stands for like chick magnet or something stupid like that.
I feel like it probably has something to do with Chicago. Yeah, Mickey Gall wins by decision in the first round, or
by decision.
Wow. By submission.
They should give this one round and that's it. Whoever wins the one round gets the fight.
Gracie rules. No submissions. No decisions. Just fight till someone quits.
So they're gonna fight for 90 minutes. What was that one where Royce Gracie fought for like 90 minutes and then just gave up?
Sakuraba and Royce Gracie like 90 minutes.
Iron
That's what
Man
they should
match.
do.
Be like, WWF called the Iron Man match.
Yep. The 60-minute iron. That's what they should do.
So, Dave, who are you taking?
Well, I'll give you some of the people on this card just briefly that I think I'm going to take. For flyweight, Ian McCall versus Ray Borg, I got McCall on that one. I'm just going to go briefly through some of the ones. This one should be a pretty good fight. Jessica Ai versus Betch Correa.
Dave is taking over the show. I love it.
No, so I'm just giving you my opinion. I think Jessica Ai is going to beat Betch Correa. And then another women fight, which I'm actually really excited for, is Jessica Andre versus Calderwood. Now, what we saw Calderwood do to Valerie, I can't remember her last name. Letourneau or something. She put on a clinic against her. I mean, we almost saw it nip in that fight, thanks to Calderwood. So that's something you always got to look forward to. I mean,
that's why we watch.
I mean, that's why we watch. You know, I mean, I still go back to watch Rousey versus Carmouche, just praying that something different will change this time, but it never does. But for the one fight that everyone's the most curious about, which is CM Punk versus Mr. Gall here, I got to go Gall just first round. I feel like he's just going to try to just overpower him and just overwhelm him. And I feel like he'll probably win just by a TKO, or he'll just he'll try to get in a quick submission, and then I think CM Punk will just tap immediately. Like once it's not even in, if it's like over his jaw, I feel like he is like, oh, I'm done. I'm tapping right away. That's my thought.
I think Gall comes out with a full head of steam and just comes right after him immediately. I don't think the fight lasts very long.
I'm taking Phil Brooks by flying head kick knockout.
This is what I changed my mind. This is what I want to see in CM Punk versus Gall. You remember the old-fashioned wrestling?
Changed my mind.
This is what I want to see is when you remember when anybody would punch Hulk Hogan and he would just hulk up and then he would point to him and be like, you. I feel like that's what's going to happen. He'll take a couple shots and he'll start feeling the energy, and then he'll just stand and he'll point at him and go, you, and then take a knee to the face and lose by TKO.
No, all right, just for the record, I'm taking Mickey Gall because I know some people will be saying, you said you took CM Punk. I'm taking Gall. I think from what I understand that Brooks wants to get the fight to the ground. He's going to shoot in. I think Gall's going to stuff a couple of takedowns, and eventually he's going to beat him up, and eventually I think he's going to tag him, and I think he's going to knock him out.
Now, let me ask you this question. If he loses in the first round, CM Punk, do you give him another fight? Or if he makes it to the decision, I feel like if he makes it to a decision, you definitely give him another fight. But I feel like if he loses first round, I feel like he just may be like, I'm done. I wanted to prove to myself I could do it. Obviously, I can sort of hang with these guys, but not to their level. So I'm one and done. I mean, what's your take on this?
I would check what Stipe Miocic and Alistair Overeem average for pay-per-view buys by themselves, and then I would see how much more pay-per-view buys they get. And if it's worth it, then I'd give another fight.
I agree with that because
that makes sense.
Yeah.
But his second fight, you're not going to get as many pay-per-view buys because of. I mean, if he wins, then you get more pay-per-view buys. But if he loses,
I mean, if he wins, this could be another star that can, because he has.
I want to see.
You want him to win by knockout?
No, if he wins, I want CM Punk versus Sage Northcutt.
Oh,
you like that? Huh?
Juicy.
All right, we gotta pick a real fight.
Yeah. Okay. For the co-main event, you have Verdum versus Brown, which is a rematch. But I'm still taking Verdum, even though I think Verdum was actually supposed to fight Ben Rothwell. So I got Verdum winning probably by submission round 2 in their rematch.
I like that prediction. I'm taking the same one.
Justin?
I'm going to take
by TKO. I could see that. I think Brown gets lucky in the first round, believe it or not. I might be the only person on earth with that prediction, but I think Brown gets a first round knockout by by some means. I'm not sure how he's going to do it.
Well, I mean,
I don't know if he's going to slip. I just got this feeling that Brown's
it could
gonna
happen the
pressure
same
on
way that
guy.
Stipe beat Verdum. You know, just he was backing up and he just caught him with one punch and put him to sleep. So you know, Verdum's been finished by a punch. You know, he lost to Junior Dos Santos way back when he was in a run with the first time in the UFC. So his chin is it's vulnerable. You know, so I mean, it could happen. I mean, Travis Brown, he's you know,
He knocked out Overeem.
yeah, he knocked out Overeem, but then he looked terrible against Cain Velasquez at UFC 200. Brown just looked like he didn't know how to handle the power of, you know, Cain. But then again, nobody really does besides, you know, Junior Dos Santos, I would think.
What do you guys have for
All right,
for the main event?
I have this two ways. Do you want? Sorry, Keith. I keep interrupting. I feel like you should talk.
Oh, good.
I feel like it depends on which Stipe Miocic comes. If it's the Stipe that lost to Stefan Struve, we're in trouble. If it's the Stipe that basically put on a clinic against Mark Hunt, Overeem is definitely in trouble. But then again, which Overeem's going to come? Is it going to be the Overeem that comes out cocky and then loses to Bigfoot Silva? Or is it going to be the one, you know, the Overeem that comes out that we all knew he was supposed to be when he beat Brock Lesnar? So I honestly don't know how this fight will play out, but I feel like Overeem, I'm going Overeem just because of the kickboxing aspect of it. I feel like he's going to be trying for that head kick, and I feel like he'll land one that glances him and then stumbles him a little bit, and then I feel like he's just going to keep coming and just hit him with the barrage while he's on the ground, and Stipe's got no answer. So I'll say Overeem probably maybe second round, you know, head kick, and then followed by ground and pound.
I'm taking the champion. I mean, I can see where Overeem wins. He's bigger. He's stronger. Overeem has a very underrated ground game. He's actually a very decent wrestler, and he's got very good ground and pound. I mean, you saw that when he knocked out Stipe Miocic. Overeem, to me, he has some holes in his game that I think Stipe looks like the Terminator his last couple fights. One thing about Overeem is he tends to get too aggressive with his hooks. He tends to throw them really far. That's what kind of set up Brown's front kick knockout. You see him, he caught Dos Santos with a big looping left. He caught Overeem with a similar punch. I could see him. He's got these very big, wide looping punches, while Miocic is very tight boxing. He comes straight down the middle. I don't think Overeem would out-wrestle Miocic, because Miocic is a better wrestler. And I see a combination from Miocic sometime. I think early. I think he's going to catch him early. Overeem, people forget Overeem has had a shaky chin. He's got knocked out by Silva. He's been knocked out by Travis Brown. He's been hurt on the feet a lot. And I've been hearing some people worried about the pressure Miocic's going to face by fighting in his hometown. But how is it any different than fighting for Fabricio Verdum in his hometown, where the whole crowd is cheering against you? They all got pictures of Verdum's face and they're chanting and waving around. I think Miocic wins, which really is good, because I really want to see Miocic versus Cain Velasquez. I think Cain Velasquez is the best heavyweight in the world. I think he's the most talented heavyweight I've ever seen. I would love to see those two guys go at it. So I'm taking Miocic by a knockout.
Well, I feel like the UFC heavyweight division needs a dominant champion going back to Cain, because everyone who wins it, they lose it immediately after. So they can't really build around a big heavyweight. And I feel like they want to build around Stipe, because American Boy has the title, you know, from Ohio. So I feel like they're trying to build him around him to be, he could be the next dominant champion in the heavyweight division. But the heavyweight division is so tough, because anybody can knock out anybody with one punch. So it's tough to build pay-per-view buys and promo work around this one guy when he can just easily be defeated in 2 minutes with a head kick and then be done. And then you got another guy you got to slowly build around as, maybe he'll be the next dominant champion. And then you do Overeem versus Cain, and then boom, Cain catches him, and then then you got to build around Kane. But that's what they want. I feel like they want Kane to be back in that heavyweight picture because he was the most recent dominant champion. I have a feeling. That's my opinion. I don't know what you feel like, you guys.
Well, they want the Mexican market too. They've been trying to push him in the Mexican market. Miocic striking versus Velasquez striking. They're wrestling. Both has good cardio. I just think that'd be a fantastic fight.
So let's hope Miocic wins then, and then that has to be next. I feel like.
Well, it's going to be hard to keep if Verdum beats Travis Brown. It's going to be hard to keep him out of the title fight because this is what happened. They both lost a fight, then they both recovered by beating Travis Brown. So to give Cain Velasquez a title fight over Verdum when they both recovered and fought one guy, beat the same guy, but Verdum beat Velasquez. To me, it'd be really hard to make an argument for Cain Velasquez.
But what if obviously Cain beat Travis Brown pretty good. So if Verdum and Brown have a terrible fight, that's going to set him back though. If it's a stinker, if it's just like a grappling match and it goes to the decision, I feel like they'll give it to Cain because Cain basically beat Brown in the first round and pretty handily, I think.
Yeah, no. Who they give title fights to and who deserves it is completely different things. So yeah. I'm saying basically who deserves the title fight, not who they will get a title because they will put in who sells. Honey, can you help me out?
Oh, well,
Sorry, my kid is interrupting.
That's all right. That's pretty much it for 203. Are there any other fights on that card that you guys have your eyes on? Anything that you're watching closely?
Hold on, let me just load it up quick.
That's Uriah favorite. Jimmy Rivera's on that fight. That's a good fight.
Yep. And this was supposed to be when Nick Lentz was supposed to fight. I thought he was supposed to fight BJ Penn, but I feel like that got scrapped. Or no, he was supposed to fight Maribek.
Yeah.
That was originally supposed to. That's who they wanted to fight, right? Or
BJ Penn is fighting.
He's fighting
Ricardo Lamas. He's fighting Ricardo Lamas in the main event.
I mean, there's some pretty good fights on the Fight Pass, like Yancy Medeiros versus Sean Spencer, and then you got CB Dalloway, who's obviously he's tailed off, but he's still a name. The Doberman, and then you got Drew Dober fighting in front of the Doberman, which is that should be a good tag team right there. But I mean, overall, I think the card's pretty good. I mean, I don't know what Keith's doing, if he's going out for the fights or if he's having it in if his man cave is done yet.
Sorry, my kid is distracted.
I was telling Keith right before we came on, having like a pretty big barbecue that day, and I didn't realize how many people I invited until I stopped and thought, I was like, I got to watch the fight later. I don't know how I'm going to get all these people out the door real quick so I can –
See, now you should order the fight and then charge everybody $10 a head to watch the fight.
There you go.
Make a little money that way.
There you go. UFC, don't watch that. That part never happened.
No.
So before we get out of here, I just want to remind people, I'll be setting up a DraftKings league today. We still have the UFC pick'ems. Me and Zach will be doing a great debate. We're debating the main event. I got Miocic. He's got Overeem. So that's some things, and we'll have new rankings coming out sometime next week.
Looking forward to it. Dave, any last notes you want to add?
Well, I feel like it's an honor to be the first ever guest twice in 2 weeks. I feel like that's an honor, and just thank you for having me. And this is it's always fun debating with you guys.
We got to give the people what they want. They want Dave.
You got our viewership up. We gotta.
You gotta milk it while it's hot.
All right, well, that's it for today. Thanks, guys, for joining me. Anybody who watched all the way up to this point, thank you. We appreciate it. And signing out until next week. Later.
See you guys.